My fellow Americans, it's John Muntean talking to you again from MunteanForAmerica.com. I hope you're doing well. Welcome aboard. Previously, I put a couple of videos out regarding abortion and the other social issues that I call the issues of distraction, largely because I know that those issues that have never been solved in the entirety of my life are issues that I feel have been designed to keep us divided, keep us pitted against each other, with no real expectation that our government wants to solve those issues. And I believe they've needed that distraction and the chaos associated with keeping us divided is because they realize we have far more issues in common than the issues they choose to have us argue over. And if we were to come together and realize we have a lot more in common than we do difference, we might be paying more attention to what government is actually doing. So I want to take the time on this video to discuss a little bit about what I see government has been doing for decades and its impact on us without us even having a real chance to be a part of that discussion. Because for decades, our government has been engaged in data collection and surveillance that has gotten more and more sophisticated over time, more and more pervasive into every aspect of our lives. And they've done so without our knowledge, without even discussing with us that they were going to do this. Now, some of those programs were actually codified as a part of the Patriot Act in the early 2000s. But we know that the programs they have in place go well beyond anything authorized within the Patriot Act, and they began well before the Patriot Act was ever enacted. So we don't even know the full extent of what they can and can't do, but we do know they've been doing it. The other thing we know is that not only have they done these collection efforts independent or within themselves, but they have engaged in businesses to help them and assist them in this data accumulation. It can be as simple as being able for credit card companies to be able to tell them what credit cards a person uses so that they can track that if they need to. But more importantly, have you ever noticed how there's always terms and conditions, whether you're turning on your computer and operating any program on it, or going onto a website and accepting or declining cookies, or downloading an app and accepting terms and conditions, or making a transaction online and accepting terms and conditions? You're expected to do that to continue. You don't have to, but if you want to continue, you have to. And you have to realize you're not a part of those developing of those terms and conditions. You weren't there. You're either accepting it or you're not. So you're entering into an agreement that you had nothing to do with the development. And if you were to ever read some of those terms and conditions, you will realize they were remarkably one-sided and you didn't have an advocate in the room. So if you want to know why those terms and conditions are allowed to be there and those draconian one-sided terms are put in place, it's because they were allowed to. They were authorized to do that by this government. So where we know that the government programs collecting data on everybody have an impact on our Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections by our Constitution, so do those data collections by these businesses. And I believe that is a way that the business transaction circumvents our Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections authorized by the government. Why these agreements and why these conditions have never been fully challenged in court, I will never know. I don't know why defense attorneys don't use the Fourth Amendment more often in how data is collected when they're defending their clients. And I don't know why the ACLU hasn't become involved, and that's a question to ask those particular bodies. But nonetheless, Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections were put there for a reason. Our founders understood the power possible by government. and they wanted to limit it. Some of you may say Muntean is soft on crime by saying this. I'm not being soft on crime, I'm being hard on government. Government, it's not supposed to be easy for governments to take away an individual's freedom. Our founders recognized that and put restrictions in place to prevent the easy opportunity for them to take away an individual's freedom. I agree with what our founders did, and if I had any authority or any power whatsoever, I will tell you what I would do. I would immediately suspend all data collection programs within our government. I would also suspend any data transfer and sharing agreements between businesses and our government until each of those programs and each of those agreements could be individually debated, publicly reviewed, sanctioned by Congress, and signed off by the President. Every one of them individually. Every one of them open to public review so that we would understand what our government has been doing and what it's capable of doing, and then decide with our input whether or not those programs should continue. Second thing I would demand is that the Department of Justice suspend all use of any information that they have gained through any of those programs or agreements that was gained by them prior to any probable cause for any case they're bringing. Folks, that isn't easy, but it's something we have to do in order to make sure we rein in government. You know, our founders understood that any encroachment, anything encroaching on anyone's civil liberties was planting a seed of tyranny. The fact that our government has been collecting this information on all of us is a lot of seeds. And to continue that metaphor, those seeds have been growing, and to use Thomas Jefferson's metaphor, the tree of liberty is being choked by them. And we have to stop it. Finally, I'm not saying that I'm soft on crime. I want criminals to go to jail, but it's incumbent upon our government to do things the right way, the constitutionally protected way, in order to only put the criminals away that they know for sure, without any reasonable doubt, are the ones responsible for those crimes. And finally, I will tell you that what I believe is the most effective deterrent for crime in any society, and this has been throughout history, it is not an active, aggressive, and pervasive police force, and it is not a government surveillance program. The most effective deterrent for crime in any society is a well-armed, law-abiding population. No criminal wants to operate in those situations. I hope I've given you something to think about here, because folks, if we do not stop the encroachment of the surveillance state, now combined with the advancements in artificial intelligence, I'm afraid that tree of liberty is not only going to choke, but it's going to die. Again, thank you for listening. I hope I've intrigued you. Feel free to give me some comments and ask questions. That's it for now. This is John Muntean. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.